Hello. You won't have heard of Craft, we're pretty new. And the very important first question is, do you like my new logo? Because this is its first outing. Work with me and you get all of your media plans in a nice cross-stitch. Or at the very least, I can hem your curtains brilliantly. Anyway, that's my new logo. I spent 4 months last year off, not working, which I recommend, if you can do that. And I spent some time talking to, it's my turn to turn the thing. I spent loads of time talking to clients, strategists, media strategists and creative agencies, trying to work out what the real problem was with the media industry. And whilst the big public debate, as you'll all have read, is around transparency, it became really clear to me that the big issue was more about strategy. And clients were pretty consistent when they said that they felt that strategy had been downgraded within the media operations to the point where they no longer felt its presence and were even considering taking comms strategy out of house, and we back in house rather. And we saw that happen for the first time in November last year when Deutsche Telekom took comms strategy back in house globally, so downgrading their relationship with WPP. So it was starting to happen. They basically felt that the strategies that they were approving weren't always 100% in their interest. And they also worried that they were seeing the top, or they weren't seeing the top strategic talent from agencies. In fact, most of them said, we saw a really great planner at the pitch. Never again. That was it. Never again saw that planner. And seemingly that was the problem with strategists. So my peers basically complaining that all that happened was that they were used to pitch endlessly, one pitch to another. And with a pitch strike rate in media of 1 in 8, you can see how that might start them feeling pretty undervalued and overworked. And media pitches are invariably not won because of a great strategy. It's more likely down to a commercial deal or a handshake further up the chain. And after a while, that really starts to impact your own self-worth. So linked to this, I think, is the fact that good strategists are the most senior people in the business. They cost a lot, to be frank. And that's why there aren't very many of them. And so they're really, really, really stretched. They're really stretched thin. They put, at best, fingerprints over projects rather than getting fully involved. And if you've ever worked with a good comm strategist, you'll know that we're absolutely at our best when we are fully involved in a project, fully immersed in it. And at the same time, the creative agencies that I spoke to said, we really miss our sparring partners. And when we do ask to work with a media agency, which we do frequently, we're even given email access to someone. What the fuck? Or we're sent someone so inexperienced or so specialist in one area that they can't contribute to the conversation. So it was a pretty grim view of what was going on in the media world. I'm a massive believer that a good comm strategy can solve all world problems, from politics to Brexit to parenting to your relationships. Trump definitely could do with one. All you have to do is think things through logically, examine the journey, anticipate those hurdles, and focus on the behaviour that ultimately we want to change. And yet it's this element that's been watered down by the increasing complexity of media agency models, thanks to their makeup, with a raft of juniors and narrow specialists and very few senior generalists. And that's kind of what I'm trying to put right with Craft. So before I talk through what we might do to fix the industry, I thought I'd give you my perspective on what we did to cock it up. How did we get here? And I think we made a few mistakes. The first was that we tried to make lives in media agencies easier by creating sort of uniform approach to problem solving. So somewhere back in the dim and distant past, some genius said, wouldn't it be better and quicker and cheaper if we had a computer that would make decisions easier? And of course, we all know that those planning systems are only useful if you've got really good input from a human being and who analyses the output and gives you some proper insights. But with the intense workload that media agencies are under, unavailability of senior people and the pressure put on agencies to deliver cheap media, you can see how planning systems start to take the place of strategists. We also went into full-on defence of the margin at all costs. I remember sitting in board meetings and being told, at all costs, you deliver that margin. I don't care how you do it, but that's what you're going to deliver at the end of the day. And in our defence, I suppose, let's put that into some context, we spent the 90s and the noughties with media agencies agreeing 0% commission for new business wins, right? Just let that sink in. They agreed to not be paid for their service. How fucking awful is that? Not valuing their own input to a client's business. And instead, what the clients allowed to happen was that we'd be allowed to make money on the money, basically, on the money that was flowing through our books. So that pressure from margin from our holding companies basically forced us all to look elsewhere for a revenue stream, enter the interweb, and programmatic trading desks and margins bigger than our wildest dreams. And all of that, of course, goes back to flipping computer programs again. And then we started to work with clients who really wanted us to deliver a clear ROI immediately. Not 6 months down the line, not a year down the line, that day. And so, as we all know, optimization can only ever close really small gaps in a business. It really can't be the thing that transforms a business. So we started to overanalyze audience. I don't know about you, but I now rarely see ads serendipitously. I really only see them if they're meant for me only. Me with one child living in Sussex with a dog and a rabbit, right? They're the sorts of ads that I get to see. I don't just get to come across any advertising anymore. And that, I'm really sorry, Google, I'm going to stick the boot in here, but I think we allowed too much of our budgets to go through Google and Facebook. We're still allowing it. There's no due care and attention of where our advertising is going to appear. Nice snacks, Google. Again, thanks very much. Shit. 80% of all digital budgets go through Google and Facebook, and that's never felt right for me. That just feels like the wrong thing to do. So what can we do to fix this? Media, I think, has forgotten that in order to work, you need to take a big strategic leap to get brands noticed, not create awareness, noticed and demanded, and then and only then can you start to optimize. And in order to make those leaps, you need brilliant strategists. You don't need computers. We need to get back to a point where brand, media, and consumer are working together or thinking about things together. It's the intersection of those three things where that magic really happens. And I think there are very, very, very few places in London at the moment that are doing this really well. I've heard enough about audiences. I want to talk about people and why they do the things they do, not just where they are and how to reach them. And I want to do that with other people who are as keen as I am to get to the right answer, and that's not always the easy answer. Because with so much media, reaching them isn't the problem. Connecting with them, making them notice is the real challenge. And that's arguably a job for context and content rather than channel. And that's not just a media job, that's a comms job. So that's as much your job as it is mine. So we looked for another way. A way where strategy is valued and paid for. And this will demand a change in the way that we value our service and the way that we're paid by clients. How many senior strategists, and I assume this happens on your side of the fence as much as it does on mine, how many of you find yourselves on a team sheet with zero cost against your name because you're too expensive to have on there? The agency knows that actually in reality you're not going to spend much time on that bit of business, and the client hopes that he's going to get you for free. No one wins in this situation. I think that this strategic service that we're moving towards will be project-based, valued on output, I think it will be valued on the difference it makes to the business that we're working with, and that because of this, agencies will need to lose their retainers. I've long thought that agency retainers are too fat. I think they make us lazy. I think they make us put off what we could do today until tomorrow. So we lose the retainers, we work on a project fee, and we create a scope of work with the client that adds value. I think agencies will become leaner, much more leaner than they are at the moment. I think they'll be more consultative, and they will be full of people like you, high-level, creative and strategic specialists that cross a range of marketing disciplines. And I think that daily digital performance will be handled by clients in-house, so not touched by a media agency at all. I think we need to lose our egos, take the guns back off each other's lawns and start talking again. I am a really good comms strategist, but I work best when I'm in partnership with a brand and creative strategist. And I'm really okay about that. I'm okay about saying what I'm not good at. So stop pretending that you can do all of the things, because you really can't. And by land grabbing, you're just making the problem worse. Collaboration wins the day for me every single time. If I were a network agency, I would be working very hard to deconstruct my business. I'd be talking to my creative counterparts about plugging strategy teams into theirs, not occasionally, but full time. All strategists under one roof, coming up with one answer that focuses on people, brands, and media. All of us need to work to the same KPI as the client so that we aren't pulling in different directions. And I'd reconfigure my media agency to make it super efficient, full of smart analysts, to make sure that the brilliant strategy that we're creating is pulled through into media in the best possible way for the client. And I'd make sure that we all got paid well enough to do the job that we've been asked to do, with focus and craft. Until that time, Craft has 2 senior strategists. We are working our bollocks off at the moment. We've got twice as many, with 2 strategists only, we've got twice as many as an agency of 70 people. Isn't that ridiculous? So we're trying to bring some art back to the craft, and we're trying to take some pride in our work again.